Hey, the Seahawks did something.
The Seattle Seahawks have traded for Sidney Jones from the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 6th round pick. Now, I couldn't get to this news when it originally happened because, I was doing college stuff. However, the Sidney Jones trade is an interesting one because, one, the Seattle Seahawks got some more corner depth. I think that says a lot about what the team is kind of feeling about the corner group right now. And two, they didn't trade away a running back. Now, of course, it was never a guarantee that the Seahawks were going to trade a running back for a corner, or even if they were looking to trade one of their running backs, but just logically, it makes a lot of sense to look at trading your probably most strong position that you don't need that much depth in because, you got Chris Carson, Rashad Penny, Alex Collins, DJ Dallas, and Travis Homer. All 5 of those guys could be on the team, but you can't keep all 5 guys. You might as well look to get some value from whichever one you're going to get rid of, and if you can get something for Rashad Penny, who's going to be up after this year, probably not extending him. He was a disappointing first-round pick. Maybe you can get a good pick for him or a good player. Alex Collins just absolutely showed out in this last preseason game for the Seahawks. I don't think he's in their future plans. Maybe you could get something from him as well. But the Seahawks didn't do that. They ended up trading a 6th-round pick for Sidney Jones, and Sidney Jones, he seems like he's going to be another guy to come in and compete at the corner spot. It doesn't look like the Seattle Seahawks are content with what they've seen throughout the preseason out of their corners. DJ Reed, he's still hurt. Maybe there's something wrong with him that we don't know. Ahkello Witherspoon, he hasn't been amazing. He hasn't been bad in the preseason. Just kind of iffy still. Tre Flowers, we know what Tre Flowers has shown in the preseason, and Tre Brown has been dealing with an injury. Maybe that's worse than we know. So Sidney Jones seems like he's been brought in to compete for that second corner spot. I think DJ Reed has kind of locked down the first corner spot, not by him showing anything good, just because everyone else is kind of, pissed the bed. Now, I believe that I was someone who called out the Seahawks whole experiment pretty early on throughout free agency, where we were probably going to be trying to take some questionable corners, not really get a star corner or someone that we really can guarantee is going to do well. Shore up the defensive line, the pass rush, get as good as we can there. We know the linebacker group's going to be good. We know the safety group's going to be good. We just got to pray to God that the corners can hold up as long as we get a better defensive line. And that's what we try to do. It doesn't really seem like it's panning out because in the preseason, you have Ahkello Witherspoon going against some backups, and it hasn't looked amazing for him. It hasn't looked horrible, but when you're a possible starting corner and probably one of the bigger acquisitions that the Seahawks had in this offseason, you should probably look a little bit better than subpar against backup wide receivers. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I think Sidney Jones, he can come in. He hasn't really proved himself completely in the NFL, but he's shown some glimpses, and he's young. He's 25. He still definitely has years to go. He has potential. He can grow into a better player, and he seems like he is going in the right direction. A very interesting tweet from Brian shows his progression from his first 3 years in the NFL. Now, take this with a grain of salt, small sample size because he hasn't started a lot of games. However, in 2018, he had a coverage rating of 47.6. Not great, Tre Flowers, 2019, he had a coverage rating of 68.3. Not too bad, doing all right. But last year, he had a coverage rating of 71.3. So he has been consistently improving over his first 3 years in the NFL, and that 71.3 coverage rating is better than DJ Reed was last year. And DJ Reed came in, he made a big difference, and he looked really good with the Seahawks. So maybe Sidney Jones, although he's not proven, maybe he can be a guy that completely rejuvenates his career this year, and maybe he can grow into that guy that he's supposed to be. Him and DJ Reed just kind of given up on by their team, thrown away by the NFL. The Seahawks bring them in. Maybe both of those guys can be some great comeback stories for the Seahawks, and Lord knows we need the corner help because in the preseason, it hasn't looked great. But unlike the Seahawks experiment with DJ Reed last year, they don't have as long to find out the answer with Sidney Jones. He only has 1 year left on his deal, and honestly, this is where I think Tre Flowers might be hitting the books. He may be getting kicked out of Seattle. He might be taken on a flight straight to another team, possibly traded or cut, I don't know. But Sidney Jones, I think he comes in this year with like a $1 million cap hit, barely anything more than $1 million. And Tre Flowers is due over $2 million, and I believe none of it is guaranteed money. So the Seattle Seahawks could get rid of Tre Flowers, not take on any money of his contract, save $1 million, replace him with Sidney Jones. They're kind of at the same stage of their career, last year in their rookie deal, and hopefully Sidney Jones will pan out a lot better than Tre Flowers because we've given Tre Flowers all the chances in the world except for going to his, natural position at safety, so I kind of feel bad, but Tre Flowers has definitely been a disappointment, kind of the laughing stock of the Seahawks corner group for the last 3 years. But I definitely do think that this trade is a good deal for the Seahawks. Sidney Jones, low risk, you're not paying him a lot of money. He comes in, you only gave up a 6th round pick. The Seahawks are kind of back in the stage where they don't have a lot of picks this year again. That's kind of disappointing. But Sidney Jones, if he plays well, you gave up a 6th round pick and paid him $1 million. That's really not losing anything. And if he comes and plays well, that's really good. If he plays well, proves himself, you get him on another deal, hopefully for pretty cheap. But if he doesn't pan out, that's fine. You lose a 6th round pick. You paid a dude $1 million for a year. That's really not too bad. But let me know down below in the comments what you think about this trade. I'm pretty happy with it. I'll always take a young corner that can possibly join the group and prove himself, because our corners have not looked good throughout the preseason. What do you think this means for Tre Flowers, though? That's something that I believe is really interesting. You know, Pete Carroll, he's talked pretty highly about Tre Flowers this camp, but Tre Flowers has done nothing but disappoint in the preseason. I mean, we'll see if he gets cut, traded, or anything like that. Will running backs get cut instead of traded now? Because, you know, who are we going to trade our running backs to? Maybe the Ravens? I mean, we'll have to see what goes on with all those situations. But like I said, let me know down below in the comments what you think about it. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you after 1 p.m. when the Seahawks inevitably have to cut like 20 people.